A few weeks ago, I talked about trying Escape from Tarkov, so I decided to pivot briefly and check out this game, particularly because they just put out a new update for it. This is going to be a very honest review of what a new player's typical experience is going to be like. So I'm going to warn you in advance to brace yourselves, because I'm not that great at first-person shooters, so it's not going to be very pretty. I selected Tarkov from the whole genre of shooters because it does have some very interesting game mechanics, and it seems a little different from a lot of those other games out there. This is basically Tarkov in a nutshell. You get dropped into a map, with your goal being to pick up as much loot as possible and escape the map without dying. You're confronted by both AI enemies, known as Scavs, and other players, both of which are pretty competent at killing you. This isn't a battle royale, so many individuals can win, so it's simply a matter of escaping alive, which is something I found challenging, among some other challenges even before starting to play. The first challenge I ran into was actually downloading the game. Now, a simple query for Escape from Tarkov will bring up the website, and they make it very obvious where to click to purchase the game. It's a pre-order now because it's in beta. The actual purchase went through a fairly straightforward series of steps, but after buying it, I was left scratching my head with how or where on the website to actually download the game. After clicking all the little tabs and menu options, I finally did your basic Google search, which is where I discovered you have to go up to the little profile word at the top, click on that, which will lead you to a game installation. The installation is a two-part process and similar to other games, so not overly complicated. You first download a game launcher, and once that's successful, you execute the launcher and download the game. Both the launcher and the game allow you to customize the drive location of where you want the game to be, which, given the ever-increasing size of games these days, is practically mandatory. Jumping into the game itself was reasonably self-explanatory for me, but that could be because I've watched a number of streamers play the game, so I had an idea of how the flow of things went. But I will say that people who play this game and become good at it do click through a lot of screens very quickly, so you probably should take a little time to familiarize yourself with everything that's available, because there's quite a bit. There's your character and its loadout of gear, a separate screen for your character's health. There's traders, which you can buy and sell things from, a hideout, which you can upgrade to give you extra benefits in the game, and a whole host of other things I didn't really even get into, but might talk about them later at some point. What I was really wanting to get a feel for was the game itself. Now, when you watch other people playing this game, they make it look easy, but I'm going to tell you that it's not. I spent a lot of time doing this. And this. And this. But I didn't get overly discouraged because I knew that this game does have a bit of a learning curve to it, and I've watched people who started playing this game a couple years ago struggle exactly like I did, then slowly over time get a little better and a little better. Strangely enough, the first time I got dropped into a map, I didn't die, but I did run into a huge number of problems. One problem that I had is that I had no idea what the keybinds were to be able to do anything. And the other really big one was that I had no idea where to exit the map. I didn't even know what the map looked like. I was supposed to be randomly stumbling around until I found some sort of exit. There is no in-game map for the player to follow, at least not when you start out. It's a matter of learning the maps and memorizing them to the extent that you know where you're going and what kind of things you're going to find when you get there, including the exit points. I did what I'm sure a lot of other players have done and relied on old Google. Normally, I don't use the internet to look up answers. I hate doing that. But in this case, the chances of me finding the exact location where I'd be able to exit from this rather large map was in reality almost an impossibility. I'm sure if a player did log in a dozen times or so and slowly scoured the map, they could put two and two together and say, hey, this area looks like a tunnel, and I bet you this is the tunnel exit I'm supposed to take. But again, realistically, that would probably take days. So 3 bits of advice to a newbie would be to pull up a map that at least has the exit points marked on it and study it in advance. Do some additional study of the common keybinds, and do not do your first raid when night is falling, like I did. What happened to me is that I went into the map, I looted a couple dead bodies that I found lying around, basically picking the leftover bones someone else had left behind, then decided for my first run I would just try to learn how to get around and find one of these exit points. But it got dark, and I wound up falling off the edge of a cliff and breaking both my legs. This left my character hopelessly and slowly hobbling around, unable to run and jump effectively, and left me questioning whether I was going to be able to get out of this map even if I did know where I was going. The game did give me some medical supplies by default, a splint to help me heal up my legs a little, some stuff that looked like American cheese that gave me some health back, and some painkillers for at least a short period of time allowed me to move without limping. But those did wear off relatively quickly. When it got dark, it got really dark, and I could barely see where I was going. It wasn't until the moon started to come up and cast a little light in the area that I was able to find the stairs down to the boat dock to one of the exit points. Some players might just crank up the gamma on their monitor, but that's a cheat, so it wasn't going to happen. Oddly enough, that first run was one of my most successful raids. After that, it was straight downhill. I died over and over, sometimes never even seeing my killer to know where the bullets came from. Without me successfully leaving the map with the gear I had brought in and anything I had found, my stockpile of weapons in my stash and other things like that was dwindling fairly quickly. Now, fortunately, the game does have a little mercy on you, and you can play as 2 different kinds of people. You can play as your normal character, known as the PMC, or you can enter the map as a player Scav. The fundamental differences are this. As a player Scav, you're given a set of gear when you enter the map. It's not great gear, but at least you have a gun and a little bit of storage for things on your body, with some other basics. If you exit the map with the gear they gave you and anything else you looted, you get to keep it, the same as if you were playing your main PMC character. The second difference, though, is that any actions you do in the game don't count towards your character's experience, which is another interesting facet of the game. The more you play and do different kinds of actions, use different kinds of weapons, and a whole variety of different types of functions like that, you essentially level up in some sort of ability related to doing that thing. Now, I'm not talking drastic differences between a person who's level 1 and a person who's level 20. It's not like World of Warcraft leveling, but the improvements are there, and over time, higher level players will have an edge in the way the game calculates your accuracy or movement and things like that. But to be clear, the majority of the leveling is really just about you as a person playing the game getting better. But back to my experience. It was humbling to say the least. I even resorted a few times to running into the game with the free knife your character has because I was tired of losing things and had the hope of being able to just find some better loot or a gun in the game. Perhaps some leftover backpack another player was unable to carry. Really, anything. I kept dying over and over. But I will say, a fair bit of my failure was by my own hand. I didn't seem to be able to hit or kill anything effectively when I was given the chance. Other times when I had a good shot, I had my gun in single shot mode rather than automatic, which would have allowed me to maybe gun them down with a sheer volume of bullets. And I did realize that the odds were against me regarding guns and bullets as well. The game has an incredibly detailed capability in allowing you to construct and assemble a gun that is significantly better than what you're given right out of the bag. You can swap out different stocks, handles, triggers, barrels, mounts, scopes, magazines, and even the bullets you put in the magazines make a tremendous difference in the killing power. I was using what I believe to be probably the weakest bullets you can have in the game. They were the ones given to me by default, but I've seen most good players go purchase much more expensive ammunition, but also works a lot better. I went through this death fest with only 2 or 3 successful exits for about 8 hours straight. I just couldn't stop though. I wanted to get a win. I wanted to increase my loot, which is when it dawned on me. This game is actually pretty good. I'd rather have a game that challenges my skills and knowledge and starts out beating me to a pulp than one I'm basically walking through after a few hours, mowing down NPCs with a machine gun, and only occasionally running into a difficult fight with another player. The fact that I wanted to keep going and wasn't getting completely frustrated was enough to tell me there was some underlying draw here. Having a high risk versus reward is almost always good for a game, but I will caution anyone thinking about picking up Tarkov that it is most likely going to give you the beatdown for a good while. I'm hoping that once I get a little better handle of the maps, the basic keybinds, spawn locations, angles, and strategies, as well as my own aim, I too will improve and not be completely obliterated like I was during this first session. The game plays well, runs smooth, has a lot of detail beyond just the shooting and looting, and is one I'm definitely going to keep revisiting, and giving you occasional updates on progress as well. I hope you enjoyed this noob's first look at Tarkov, and I'll be talking to you later.